everybody. Welcome to the Hallmark Christmas podcast. And we're really excited today. We are here talking about week 9. We're almost done. It's unbelievable of Christmas movies for Hallmark Channel and Hallmark Mystery Channel. We're talking about 3 of their movies this last weekend. And we'll be covering the other 2. We'll be covering the Hanukkah movies on a separate Hanukkah episode with our friend Stacey Agdern. We're here to talk about these 3 movies. I am film critic Rachel Wagner, and Liz Johnson is here. Liz, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so much fun to be on. I always love getting to be on your show.
Oh, we love having you. And we had so much fun talking about the Dayspring movie last year
Yeah,
that I just thought, let's do it again this year.
I love it. I'm
Yeah.
so glad that it worked out for us to talk about that this movie this year, following Yonder Star. It was a fun one.
Yeah. I mean, these Dayspring movies have been way better than they have any right to be,
Yes,
in my opinion.
yes, I totally agree. And I just absolutely, I just fell into the movie as I was watching it and just
Yeah.
enjoyed it so much. And I just thought like, oh, like it was different and yet
Yeah.
so refreshing.
Well, and we were just talking off air, but that's the thing is the big joke is that Hallmark only makes the same movie over and over again.
Right.
You know, you just replace bakery with you just replace bakery with chocolate shop and you've got a new movie in the world of the people are always making those jokes about Hallmark. But I
Right.
would say these 3 movies are pretty different.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Especially I thought the Santa Claus was not at
Mm-hmm.
all what I anticipated or expected.
Mm,
Now, to be fair, I had not even seen a preview for that when I watched
mm,
it. So I didn't really know what I was going into, but I thought, oh, wow, this is really
yeah.
something very different. And I enjoyed that.
Well, it was kind of fun too because when I was talking to Paul Campbell, and we'll dive more into this, but when I was talking to Paul Campbell in an interview, so I asked him, "What about this movie, The Santa Claus?" Because it was
Mhm.
on his IMDb, and then he was like, "Oh, I don't know anything about that. That must be a mistake." And I took it out because I knew that I was 99% sure that he was in it, but I
Yes,
didn't want our interview because that aired in like October. I didn't want that to spoil it was obvious it was supposed to be a surprise.
yes.
IMDb spoiled the surprise. I didn't want our interview to be a spoiler, and so I took it out of the interview, but
Yes.
it was kind of funny that, I think I
Oh,
might do like a TikTok or something and put that back in, and be like, see, he
I
tried
love
to
it.
deny
I love
it.
it. Because it was such a riot when he
It
showed
was
up.
really
And
fun.
I like snort laughed when he introduced himself. I was like, oh, he's playing himself, but
Yeah.
not really. Like a funnier version of himself, which was
Yeah.
such a treat, such a delight.
And and then we're also talking about All I Need for Christmas. So
Ah,
we have 3 movies. Actually, let's start there.
mhm.
Because this was a I thought, very strange movie. But like it had some I was very mixed on it, but I'm interested to hear what you have to say. So All I Need for Christmas, so All I Need for Christmas, this stars Mallory Jansen and Dan Janot, director David L. Strasser, and the writers Heidi R. Kling and Betsy Morris. And all of these summaries are so long, but it's struggling singer-songwriter Maggie is worried she's unable to compete with such a tech-savvy world. Returning home to her parents on their farm, she meets Archer, an entrepreneur who has come back to town to spend the holidays alone. Archer is developing large-scale apps and is a tech enthusiast. At first, Maggie blames him for all of her songwriting woes. To her surprise, he encourages her to get back in touch with music that really matters and write from the heart. And I'll just stop there. But so the thing about this movie is, we joke that there's Hallmark or horror. That you like, I say you change the score, and you've got oftentimes got a horror movie.
Right,
Things like,
right.
never was that more true than this
Yeah.
movie. I mean, never. I mean, what these parents did to this brother and sister
Oh my gosh.
is evil.
Yes.
Like, this is not just like, oh, they weren't the best parents. No, they were actively manipulating their children. Uh,
Yes, but him against each other their whole
Yeah.
childhoods. There was a line in there kind of later on in the movie about like the sister saying something about needing therapy. And the brother was like, so much therapy.
Yeah.
And I just was like, yes, but this isn't a joke. Like this
Like
is
it's not a joke.
like
Like
you do if you go through something like that, you do need help. Like this is like a yeah, it was an awful situation. I couldn't believe that.
like if whoever makes the most money gets Christmas, that is not okay. Like they like
Right.
really, I'm not over exaggerating. This was truly evil. Like
Yeah.
what was done to these two human beings is like really bad. Like
Yeah.
it was like not normal on any spectrum. And there was a part of me that was like, does the movie realize that? Does the movie acknowledge that? Because this was like some serious trauma that we're dealing with. And yeah, there was the therapy joke. There was moments, but I'm like, no,
Like how did these
this,
brother and sister grow up to be so normal, even though still competitive? Like how were they so normal? Especially even that the sister is raising two children on her own and they're like great kids. And they talk about that like, oh no, you're doing such a great job raising your kids. But it's like, how is she doing
yeah.
that if she hasn't dealt with some of this trauma?
I mean, there is such a thing as transitional characters. They call them in like therapy speak
Yeah.
of like the person who's gonna take to stop that cycle
Yes.
of abuse and violence and other things. There's a transitional character. That's a thing, but especially the fact that both of them would do it so well, and that I don't know. I just felt like the movie didn't acknowledge that like this is like serious trauma. This is not in any way like this is not just like quirky parenting. This is
Right.
like
Right.
horrible.
Yes. Yes. And it's really one thing to sort of encourage your kids to be competitive, but it's entirely another to like withhold really like basically to withhold love from anybody who's not winning,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh no, yeah, it was pretty terrible.
Like, I couldn't believe it. I was kind of transfixed by the film because I was just like, what is this like story? I couldn't believe it. I could care less about basically everything with Mallory Jansen's character. I could care less that she was like upset about the app and that she was like struggling in the business and should she be there for the choir? Like all that stuff like did
Right.
almost nothing for me. I was like way more interested in this like bizarre sibling dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. I really wanted to like her character, but I didn't feel like she had a lot of like had a big growth arc. Meanwhile, I felt like
Yeah.
he and his sister, like I was invested in seeing their relationship begin to heal. And so I enjoyed that part of the story a lot more. It sort of reminded me of do you remember that movie, A Bramble House Christmas?
I can see that.
And
Yeah.
I felt like, oh, there was also that sort of sibling, like, but also that
Mm.
parental, like a broken relationship with your parents. And but in that one it felt like the hero in A Bramble House Christmas he sort of got to understand his dad a little bit, but there's no understanding the parents here. It's just like, no, they
No.
were just terrible people.
They really were.
Yeah.
And like there's a side of me that's also like, are they trying to equate like her being upset about this app with like serious childhood trauma? Like
Right.
these are not the same. like
Right.
like there was never a point where like he really did anything that was villainy that was
Yeah.
bad. Like he was never the bad man of business.
No, no, he was so understanding and so like I really loved how he came in with like sort of this like, hey, like my apps are designed to help people, like, like to help these young choir children who are really terrible, which by the way, that was very funny, I thought at the start where the
Yeah.
kids can't sing on tune at all. And then to sort of like be like, but I have something that might be able to help them. I have this app, and that she just was so like shut off from even like being open to the idea that something technological could help. And I get that, but at the same time, I just felt like she just needed to get over herself a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. It just, it just, it wasn't, they're not equatable.
Right.
They're not like I
Totally
get it.
agree.
It's tough. It's hard. It's hard business. I
Yeah.
can empathize with that. But yeah, the whole thing with the siblings was just so much more compelling and interesting, and that it just I just didn't care, that much about what was going on with Mallory. Um but yeah, so basically, let's see here. What more is there to talk about this movie? Like, um, it was kind of funny to see him. Like, there was enough moment. So it was kind of funny to see him like kind of dealing with the tree and
Yes.
like putting it in the water and then getting frozen. And so
Yes.
there were enough like lighter moments that it did kind of leave you time to like breathe. Him being scared of the pigs, like Dan Janot, like he's underrated as far as I'm concerned amongst our leading guys. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't think of a time when he didn't deliver. He's
Yeah.
so like charming, and I think he was great, I think, in this.
Yeah. No, I thought he was as well. And I yeah, I had a couple moments where I was like, he was so endearing and
Yeah,
kind
he
of
was.
adorable.
Yeah,
And and I sometimes I wanted her to step up and be worthy of that
yeah,
because he was great. And her character, I think, lacked
yeah,
a lot of reasons to empathize with her.
yeah, I agree. You're just like, oh, boo. Yeah, I mean, like him dealing with the furnace and
Yes,
and yeah, his main flaw was that he happened to work for a company that designed apps that like proved to actually be helpful.
right, right. And that he wanted so much to encourage and support her that he,
Yeah,
at the end was like, I want you to star in my thing. And then
yeah,
she's like, I don't know if I can. And I just was like, what do you mean? Like he's
yeah,
done this whole thing for you. This is his grand gesture, and you're like refusing to take him up on it
yeah.
now? Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, it was brutal when he says that his relationship, my relationship with my sister is irreparable.
yeah,
Oh, that
yes,
was painful. And because especially in a Hallmark movie, like I don't think I've ever heard anybody be that raw,
right.
because like sometimes that's the case, like you always want to try and you always want to keep, hope and things, but sometimes it's just, or at least at the very least, you need a break from
Right.
some people in
Right.
your
And
life.
real life does not get tied up with like a pretty ribbon at
Yeah,
the end of it. And we all want the stories that do that, but
yeah,
it's not realistic sometimes. And
yeah,
so I felt like this movie more than any others really like the villains from their past felt like real villains. Like
hmm,
felt like, okay,
yeah,
these are people who are not going to be redeemable. Now,
yeah,
I do believe that everybody can be redeemed, but at that point, like the parents are already gone, they've passed away.
yeah.
And I'm like, okay, now it's too late. And yeah,
Yeah, I believe everybody can be redeemed, but I also believe evil is real.
yes, absolutely.
And there are people who are just succumbed. They're evil.
Yes. Yes, who give into that hardness
Yeah.
in the heart and that evil inside. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And they
And
choose that, and it's
I
like that's
mean,
what the parents chose, but at the same
yeah,
time it's like it was refreshing to see him sort of say like I am not going to be that person that my
yeah.
parents were, and I don't want my sister to be that either, and but I don't see any hope
Mhm.
out of this. um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because even in their will, these crazy parents, they made whoever has the higher net worth will get the seat on the board, which
yeah,
is something both of them want. So they didn't like leave an out in that regard, that neither of them wanted it or one of them didn't want it. They
yes,
both seem to want it. And so they're both like are forced to be this like super competitive, which is crazy.
yes,
And even played like the most tense moment of the movie was this life game, the game of life.
Oh,
Oh
yes.
my gosh.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And yes, and
Whoa.
he's telling his sister just to like just, let it go and she can't let it go but it was
No.
like what a parallel to their real lives is that he was willing to give up the seat on the board because he had decided he wasn't going to like go live with these new apps until after the
Yeah.
new year so that she would have
Because
the higher net worth and
he knew he would win
yes.
if he did, and then she, when it gets leaked, she thinks this is all him, and
Hmm.
she's saying that, oh well, I don't need your charity, and I was
Yes.
like, what's
Yes.
happening?
Oh, oh my
I'm
gosh.
like, I'm like, you give this script to David Fincher, this is an entirely different film. I'm telling you right now. I mean, this is like
It's so true.
crazy.
It's so
Yeah.
true. It's like there's a meme going around right now that somebody has made Gilmore Girls into a horror movie and like Dean is the villain. And it's
Yeah.
like, and it's just music and like little scenes. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's 100% this movie. Just
Yeah.
change the change the music a little bit and pull a few of
Like,
these and yeah.
I've never seen Succession, but from the vibes I've gotten, this is like somebody was watching Succession, was like, okay, how do I change my Succession spec script into a Hallmark movie?
I think that's about right.
Because it's all about, I think it's all
Yes.
about his family and like,
Yes.
or
Or somebody was sitting there saying, I want to write a Hallmark movie, but what else is popular right now?
yeah,
Like
right.
instead of going like Ted Lasso, they went Succession. It's
Yeah.
oh my word. Yeah.
Yeah. So she ends up getting, Mallory's character gets dropped by her manager. And it was kind of fun, like seeing her father become like a YouTube star. Like
That
that
was
felt pretty fun. Like
that
I
was
believe that.
adorable. I really liked her parents. Yeah.
Yeah, they were cute. They were fun. And like there were fun moments, like when they have the rapathon,
Mm,
the rapping competition, and that was fun. And seeing him interact with his niece and nephew, they were really cute. And
yeah. Yeah.
when they're picking out the tree and the possum in the tree, and it
Yes.
reminded me of the grandfather of my cousin. So not my, they're on the other side of their
Okay.
family. I remember visiting him once, and and he said that got to a certain age, he just decided that he was just going to call everybody Joe and Sue. It's like, I'm done.
I love it.
And which it was kind of made me laugh about this Ronnie the possum and
Yes.
Stumpy the squirrels.
Yes. Stumpy the squirrel. Yes.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yes.
I
Um,
would, I mean, if a possum, because it's like a wild animal, it's not
right.
like a cat or something more domesticated, like a
Right.
possum. Those things, if I would I if a possum like that, I would have a response.
Yes.
Yeah,
No, she was like way too chill about
yeah,
that.
exactly.
I know she grew up on a farm and whatever, but she was way too chill. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. The cookie crawl, that was fun. That whole scene with
Yes.
the cookie crawl and the rapathon and
Yes.
everything, and
Yes.
but then like when him and his sister get all competitive over the
The
ribbon,
rapping. Yes.
whoa,
Yes.
it
Oh
was
my gosh.
like, oh, that was intense.
But it was like that moment where like Maggie steps in and is like, oh, why don't you trade me seats? I want
Yeah.
to do ribbon now. Like that was like, I was like, okay, at
Whoa.
least you're really good for something here. Like, you're good to
Yeah.
like encourage him to reach out to his sister. But it was almost like it feels like the brother-sister relationship could have been the number one storyline. And then Maggie was sort of like the add-on helper like kind of like a B character who
Yeah.
is helping him restore his relationship rather than it being like a true romance where it's really about them.
Well, and it was nice when you saw that when the sister and him got to work together,
Yes.
like with the trolley car tavern
Yes.
and that whole thing, like you
That
two
was
are the
super
dream
cute.
team, that they could
Yes.
work really well together.
Yes.
And so that was nice. And then when they come up with the solution at the end, that the two of them would sit on the board, that was like such a triumphant moment. You're like,
It really was. Although I confess, I really like watching them like together at the tavern when they're like coming up with ideas to help
mhm,
this struggling tavern business. Like, I just was like, why aren't they going into business together? Not just like sharing a seat on a board for a
mhm.
different company. Like, why aren't they starting like some sort of marketing or something
Yeah.
kind of business together? Because they really were great.
I could see that coming. I mean, I feel like this is as realistic an ending as like there's only so much that they could even in Hallmark, like
Yes.
there's only so much that they could do with how bitter and how I mean it was
Yes.
irreparable.
Yes.
So I feel like this was as redeemed as it could get,
Yeah.
but I would say that they definitely gave you the feeling that at the very least they could purchase more companies
Yes.
and run them very effectively through the two of them
Together.
and through
Yeah.
this business. So it felt very good. And like and it was nice the whole thing with like bringing in the generators and getting the power back
Yes.
on. And so there was enough Hallmark in here.
Yes. Like
And
small town and community together.
yeah,
And yeah.
and the other thing that was a total like was the supposed brilliant song Mallory Chance's character. I think it was
Yes.
called "I Remember This for Christmas."
Yes.
Thing. It was a nothing burger. It was nothing. Like it was not like this. There's no world where this song would be like, "I'm signing you back up. I'm
Right.
your
Right. Where
manager
your
again."
manager thinks this is going to be your hit for next year. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
No.
But whatever, it was fine. And so, yeah, this movie, I find it really hard to give a rating for because it was so strange. And I don't think I would ever want to watch it again because it's
Yeah.
just too stressful to me.
Yeah. It probably, yeah, it's not probably going to be on my like every year I watch this list.
But I do kind of admire it. And I think I don't know, like it was a swing.
It was definitely different, which I appreciate and I'm thankful for. But compared to the other two, like it was hard for me not to compare, like watching all three in one weekend. It was like, okay, which do I like most and
Yeah.
worst? And this one was like, it was really hard to compare it even to the other movies because it just felt so kind
Yeah.
of left field.
It was definitely very weird. I guess I would probably give it like a 3.5,
Hmm.
I think,
Yeah.
out of 5.
Yeah. I had it at like 3.75.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
there were definitely some good qualities, but not maybe not my favorite.
It was very unexpected.
Yes,
I was expecting just like this bland, generic, movie as, City Girl comes back, the singer comes back to the
right,
and then when it's just like again, I could care less about all of that. It was all the
right.
siblings. That was what was interesting to me.
Yes,
And I
yep.
thought that was pretty well executed for what it was.
I thought it was very interesting, but I also had like moments of like where it felt like a little bit too much disbelief, like where he's saying
Mm,
like, like our relationship is cannot be
irreparable.
healed. There we go, irreparable relationship. And yet all he does is send her a text message with a picture and a do you remember this?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden she's back. And so I'm like, okay, somewhere somebody is like either he has over exaggerated the state of their relationship or he doesn't understand that she wants a relationship back with him too, or it just felt like, oh, that
Yeah, I
really
could see that.
for her to to come. But at the same time, again, Hallmark movie, so I'm gonna like kind of suspend some of my disbelief. But yeah.
Yeah. Like there's a side of me, like I said, that does the movie makers do they understand how truly evil
Yeah,
this is? Like what has happened to these people? It's not
for sure.
normal. It's not
For
just like,
sure.
oh, your quirky parents, did that. No.
No, no.
No.
Yeah,
Anyway, it was definitely an unusual entry in the in the field
for sure.
this.
Ho, ho, ho! We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
The Santa Claus next.
Okay.
Well, it's total opposite of the spectrums. Excuse me. Total opposite end of the spectrum. This stars Kimberly Susted and Benjamin Ayers. This is director Lucy Guest and writer Russell Hainline, who I have interviewed him. I have the interview. I just ran out of time. I was going to try to get it up on Saturday. It just didn't happen with work and other things. So sometime in the next 2 weeks, you can interview with Russell. He's great. So he had an incredible year this year when it comes to Christmas movies with Hot Frosty on Netflix and then this and Three Wiser Men and a Boy and Christmas Under the Lights, I think is what it's called. Anyway, 4 movies. Incredible.
Wow.
So this is his last one. And it's Kate finds herself reluctantly taking over her father's once acclaimed and now struggling Santa school. In the weeks leading up to Christmas and the school's next session, Kate and her new coworker Dan discover who they believe to be the real Santa Claus, lost and without his memories after his sled steered off course and crashed near the school. They decide to help him remember who he is by inviting him to participate in the intense Santa training program. There's a lot at stake this year. Kate's school needs to be the beat the rival St. Nicholas school or be forced to close their doors, and Nick needs to remember who he is or the fate of Christmas might be at stake. So overall, what do you think of this one?
Again, I hadn't seen any previews for this coming in. And so when I started watching it, I was like, what is happening? And then when the real Santa Claus showed up, I was like, okay, this took a turn. I don't really know what's happening here. But overall, I felt like it was a lot of good, silly fun.
Yeah.
And it felt so lighthearted that sometimes I was like, oh, where's the heart of this? But by and large, I enjoyed it. But again, I don't know if it'll be on my repeat watch list.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a fun time with it.
Yeah.
I particularly liked Benjamin Ayers' character.
Okay.
I liked that they'd been on this date and there was that whole thing and he liked the date. He was interested, and just like his persistence with her was very charming, I thought. And just overall, I thought his character was really, really appealing and swoony, and their dynamic back and forth. And then the ensemble was a lot of fun. And Paul, he really did steal the show.
Oh, he really did.
Very funny playing himself.
Yes. Or at least I hope a version of himself that's not real life.
I mean, it sort of felt like almost an homage to Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, where Neil Patrick Harris plays himself. I mean, a ridiculous version of himself, obviously. Right. But that it was in that sort of spirit, which was really fun.
Yeah. No, that he was so great and just added such an extra level of of humor. I thought there
Yeah.
were a few, like some of the humor parts were a little cringe for me, like
Mm.
the puppet. I'm sorry, what is
Oh,
it called? The
okay. It's a
figure.
little
Um,
much.
I was like, oh, too much, too much. But
Yeah, I would say there is, and I can't even quite put my finger on it exactly what keeps this from being like an all-timer.
yeah,
Like I'm not like the Santa Summit last year was just, which he also wrote, Russell
okay,
wrote, had like a similar energy and a similar sort of sense of humor, but there was something about that one
yeah,
that I think you're right. It maybe had like a little more heart. It was just like a little bit funnier and just I don't know. Like this one was very enjoyable,
hmm
but yeah, I'd agree. There's just like just it was something about it. You did feel sometimes like a little bit going through the motions,
yeah,
of kind of like,
yeah.
okay, here's the next thing. And but I really liked do they call him, is it Chris or Nick?
Uh,
The the
they called him Nick.
Santa. Nick.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Or
then at
yeah.
the end, I think
Is
Mrs.
it
Kringle,
Chris or Nick?
it's Nick, I
Uh
think.
is it Nick?
Yeah.
Oh, Nick. Nick. Okay.
Yeah.
Nick. I thought that was fun because like for a long
Yeah.
time, Hallmark really moved away from Christmas magic. Like during the
Mhm.
Bill Abbott era, it was pretty much all just like your standard. During the Bill Abbott era, it was pretty much all just your standard rom-coms.
Right.
Like every once in a while, you'd have something like Christmas Under Wraps, which has like a mild Santa
Yes.
element.
Yes.
And there was the North Pole movies. There were a few, but for the most part, they really moved away
hmm
from Santa and magic, and that's one thing that people would think, oh, that you have tons of Santa in your Hallmark Christmas, like there'd be lots of stuff at
Right.
the North Pole, and
Yeah.
and that just really was not the case for a
Yeah.
long time. So for this to be so overtly like to
Right.
have the real Santa there, like
Yes.
was fun.
Yeah.
That
Well,
was
and
enjoyable.
yeah, normally it's like if there's a mention of Santa or if there's a Santa character, it's almost like a wink wink kind of like, oh, we know who that is, but it's not like, no, he's the real guy. And so it was
Yeah.
for, I think, for the characters for Kate and Dan to really like have that moment of like, like, oh, he is who we think he is kind of moments. And yeah,
Yeah.
and that was fun. But then also to like try to keep it under wraps a little bit. So
What I thought they were gonna do is
Mhm.
I thought that Paul Campbell was gonna end up being a like a double agent for
Oh,
Blaze.
oh, funny. Oh,
You know what I mean? Like I
yes,
thought that one of them was because they want to win the cup,
yes,
and one of them was going to be a double agent, and he
yes.
seemed like the top candidate. Who would
Oh,
be?
yes,
And that would have been funny.
that would have been, yes, that would have definitely added a layer and a twist.
Yeah, been like, oh, so Paul Campbell,
Yes,
beloved movie star. That would have been funny, but they didn't.
yes.
The so she's like resentful of
Mhm.
having to run this Santa school. It was her father's legacy. But she was never really that into it, but she kept going at it. And that was an interesting thing too, as well, because like aside from going to Paris, what is like, is she gonna keep running? I guess she's gonna keep running the school. Is she gonna be fulfilled? Or is she just gonna live for like her whole life? Like never really
I don't know. I
like
didn't
what's
feel
the happy
it.
ending for this character? I guess going to Paris. She gets the tickets at the end, but
Well,
she's not moving to Paris.
no, no. Well, and she's never been. Maybe she doesn't want to move to Paris, but like it would be
But that
helpful.
was kind of an interesting dynamic because she's portrayed as like not really like very happy.
Right, right.
And in the end, she gets the whistle from Nick,
Uh-huh.
so that he can come whenever she needs him, and she gets love, but her situation is basically the same,
Right.
right?
And it really wasn't made clear like what her goal is. Like what does she
Yeah.
want out of life?
So
And
she's thinking of selling the school, and
Mhm.
Dan gets very upset with her about that because he gets fired at the beginning, which was kind of funny. He gets fired, And I did like Blaze. He was a fun bad
He,
guy.
he was a fun bad guy.
Yeah,
Yes.
he was enjoyable. And so but he's mad at her for that.
Hmm.
And she eventually decides not to do it. But again, like, is that a happy ending for her character?
Like, I feel like what the movie was telling us was that she'll be happy enough because she gets to stay with Dan.
Yeah. And she
But
gets to go to Paris. That was
yeah,
kind of her thing, I
and
guess.
it
A little
just feels like,
travel.
oh, that's happy enough, but that's not a happily ever after.
Yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
that's it. Maybe that's what it didn't quite nail it, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in that regard. Like
Yeah.
maybe if she was opening another school in Paris,
Oh
a
yeah.
Santa school in Paris.
Yeah.
Maybe that would have been like the final. I don't know. It's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
But you could find out that her big gift was that she wanted the Molly Maguire doll, which was like a Molly American Girl doll, which is
Oh, yes.
funny. And
Yeah.
that was the big gift for me. I really want a Samantha doll.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
Samantha. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got it. I did get Samantha doll. And we played with those dolls. Because in my opinion, the best gifts, I don't have children, but the best gifts to give a child is something that they can they can have imaginative play with. They
Yes.
can take that and then play all these different things with it, as
Yeah.
opposed to something that you're one and done,
Right.
or that will entertain them for about 20 minutes and then they're done.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, American Girl dolls. The thing that's nice and better about American Girl dolls than Barbie is that Barbies are hard to dress.
Oh, yeah.
Barbies are hard to dress and they're small, and for a little kid they can be a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
And so American Girl dolls are big, and so they're easier to dress, they're easier to work with, and just
Right.
I don't know, they're more fun.
Well, and the American Girl dolls came with books. So they came with
Yeah, that's
built-in
true too.
stories. So it was
Yeah.
like, oh, here's a built-in story about this character. And now
Yeah.
you can like grow from that. Like you're introduced to the character, you
Yeah.
like, and yeah, man, I
That's true.
so many of those when I was a kid. I loved them.
Yeah, they're not as good as they were before they were purchased by Mattel. Like when
Okay.
I was growing up, they were definitely, I think, better,
Yeah.
but they're still like a really solid toy.
Yeah. Yeah.
A
Well,
really
and I
solid
always
toy.
wanted a doll, an American Girl doll, but I my parents couldn't afford one
They're
for me.
very expensive. Yeah.
And if they had, it would have been like, oh, this has to sit on the shelf. Like
Mm.
it's, because my cousin had like porcelain dolls that you don't play
Oh,
with those. They're porcelain, they're pretty,
right.
they sit on a shelf. And I'm like, that is just for me, that's not a gift for a kid. Like a gift for a kid is
Mm.
something that they can play with and I don't know, get it messy.
Yeah,
It's not a big deal.
I agree. Yeah, definitely. Well, this was what she always wanted, and
Yes.
so we learn about that, and of course Nick knows that and knows
Yes.
that she wanted it. There were some really funny moments in
Mhm.
this script, like when Paul Campbell performs Romeo and Juliet. That was hilarious.
That was excellent.
That was
Yes.
really funny.
Yes.
That was really good. I also just really loved the line that love at the North Pole. What do you mean they went with Andrew Walker?
Yeah.
That was really funny.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I loved like I can't remember. I think it was Dan said, "Remember what happened to E.T.?
Yeah,
E.T."
that was really good.
There were just so
I
many like pop culture references. It was great.
Yeah, I like that I think it was Brian Crow, The Legend of Christmas Trivia. That was
Yes.
funny. That
Yes.
was good.
Oh, so good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I also thought the scene where they're dancing was really swoony.
Oh,
That
yes.
was really good.
It was sweet.
I liked that a lot. They were really close, and because they're crashing this
Yes.
random party. And at first I thought, oh, is that the other school's party
Right.
that they were crashing? But it was just like some random
Like
communications
marketing.
company. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
get dancing closer and they're pretending they're married, and
Yes. Yes.
that was really fun.
I loved it when they went to get snacks during like one of their first sessions at the school, and Santa goes and he like takes the whole bowl of cookies
Oh
and
yeah.
and a bottle of milk, like just takes everything. And it just
Yeah.
so like, oh yeah, this is Santa. That's
And
yeah, that's on
yeah.
brand for him.
And he's like chugging, chug, chug,
Yes.
chug the milk. That was really good. I like in this world, there's a Santa Sentinel magazine, evidently,
Yes.
in
Yes.
St. Nicholas School. That's the ultimate one, which is hilarious.
I was so confused though, because I kept thinking like, oh, there's going to be like more schools at the Christmas Cup or something. And then by the time we get to the Christmas Cup competition, it's only the two schools. And
Yeah,
I was like, where's everybody else? Like,
that's
if you're
true.
like the number one trainer in all of Santa Trainer and all of this world, where's like how many other trainers are there?
Yeah,
Like, the only thing
that's
that's
true.
worth
And
bragging about.
they could like that would have given all the more reason to have the ending be, oh, we're opening up a campus
Yes,
in Paris. Like that
yes,
would have been fun.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I really like both of these actors.
I do too.
I love Kimberly, I love Benjamin, like I love both of them. I just felt like there was like, and maybe it was that her character was kind of unhappy, but it just felt
Hmm.
like I was like missing a little connection between them.
Mm.
And so, and again, maybe like since you said that, like it's making me think like, I wonder if it's because, yeah, because she just is kind of an unhappy character.
Yeah.
And at least through like probably the first at least three-quarters of the movie. And so like by the time they kiss, I was a little bit like, do they like each other? Like, is there real attraction here, or is it
Yeah.
just like I wasn't 100% sure. But I gotta say, I was impressed. I counted four very solid kisses in this movie, and I was like, Hallmark, stepping it up. All right.
Yeah, I that and that was especially nice because this year it has been brutal with the near kisses. It's just
Mm,
like, and we'll talk about it in the next movie,
yeah.
especially that
Yes.
you're just like, oh my gosh, please no,
Yes.
stop with it. But I guess for me, I agree it wasn't quite there that chemistry, but I really liked him a lot. I just
Hmm.
thought he was very swoony, and so that kind of did enough. In that dancing scene
Yeah.
was really really good. So there
Yeah.
was enough that I enjoyed it on that level. And I liked the sort of thing with her sister
I
and the
really liked
nerd.
her sister and
Yeah,
Timothy. Yeah, Bailey and Timothy. I
yeah, that was
loved
fun.
them. I was rooting for them the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, little side relationship.
Yes.
So overall, I would watch this again. I definitely enjoyed it enough
Yeah.
to watch it again. So I would give this a 4.
Okay. Yeah. And mine was like just under a four.
Mm.
So yeah.
And
Yeah.
we got a Jennifer Hudson song in here, and we get one in the next movie as well. And I feel like they could have done way more with that this year.
Yes.
Like because she was in what was it? The oh, she was in Sugar Plum. She
Mhm.
sang Winter Wonderland. So and there may have been others that I just didn't even really notice because I feel like they hardly promoted that at all. And
Yeah.
I said in the Sugar Plum review that you remember, I don't know if you were a Hallmark fan when I'm Not Ready for Christmas came out with Alicia Witt.
I'm not ready for Christmas. That sounds very familiar, but I
Yeah.
don't.
That year, that song was everywhere. I mean, it was everywhere. You couldn't go without hearing I'm Not Ready for Christmas. And which made no sense with the actual movie because it's all
Okay.
about her not being able to lie. It's like a Christmas
Oh,
liar liar. So I'm not
yes.
ready for Christmas. It's not like it's a party planning or it made absolutely no sense. But
Right.
nevertheless, I mean that song was everywhere. And I even feel like they did more with Cher and her Christmas song last year than they did with
Mm,
any of these Jennifer Hudson songs.
mhm. Well, yeah, I kept seeing like yeah, I kept seeing commercials like in the commercial breaks with Jennifer Hudson being like, "Oh, blah blah blah, I'm here." But I
Yeah.
was like, "Wait, what? Like what why is she here and what's going on?" And
Yeah, maybe
I
it's because I fast forward the commercials, but I just feel like in their social media and in
right.
their YouTube and their other stuff, like
Yeah.
they just like I'm assuming it must have been expensive. Why didn't they use it
Yeah.
more?
Yeah.
It's a mystery. Great mystery.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hearty, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Let's talk about Following Yonder Star. This is the Dayspring movie.
Mhm.
This stars Brooke Dorsey and John Brotherton and director Jeff Beasley, writers John Elliott Jordan and Carly Matila Jordan. And it's Abby, once celebrated for her role as an inspirational mother on TV, is finding her real life in shambles after dealing with a scandal. She retreats to a luxury Vermont resort for Christmas, only to find herself without a room due to a booking mishap. All the local hotels are booked up due to a rare astronomical event. Beautiful star, said to mirror the Star of Bethlehem, will appear on Christmas Eve. Thankfully, Abby finds a room at quaint B&B owned by Tom McGuire, who is also a high school astronomy teacher. Since his wife's passing, Tom has taken a lot of extra responsibilities, including running the inn and directing the local church pageant. And so I'll stop there. It's a long summary. But so this movie, I can't remember if we gave it a coal. I don't think we gave it a high recommendation in our preview. Just sounded kind of boring.
Mhm.
It was way better than I expected, and maybe I should just learn to not discount the Dayspring movies, because this was just so much better and sweeter and had such a heart, and I just ended up really enjoying it. What about you?
Yeah, this was definitely my favorite of the three that I watched this weekend. And I was I really like both of these actors really, really well. And I just thought that they were a delight to watch. I
Yeah.
loved the story. But I just like I said, like I felt like the Santa class was missing some like a little bit of heart. And also the other one as well. But this one just felt like it was just full of heart for me. Like it just was full of
Oh.
like it didn't feel preachy. There were so many like good truths and like real life things that felt very honest and realistic. Like there's this really great line where Tom says something about how meltdowns are part of being a human being. And I just was like, yes, like thank
Yeah.
you. Like we are imperfect people and that's just part of life.
Well, I mean, I love both of these leads as well, but Brooke Dorsey has had a rough run lately on Hallmark. Yeah, I mean, just some really bad ones. The Fabled Holidays, one of the worst ones I've ever seen.
I know.
Beverly Hills Wedding, Crimes of Fashion was really bad. Her
Oh.
Godwink movie was the worst Hallmark movie literally I've ever seen. It was
Oh, no.
terrible. Nostalgic Christmas was really bad. Christmas in Love, where she's making these giant wreaths, was really terrible. She's just had a lot of bad ones. Aside from A Dickens of a Holiday, that one was good.
Yeah.
It's been rough. And so I think maybe that was part of also my coldness
Yes.
in
Yes.
the preview. But it's always been frustrating because I mean, of course, I love Miss Christmas.
Mhm.
I love her. I love Dr. Diva. She's in that. And so I love her. So it's just like, why is she getting these terrible projects? Her movie
Yes.
last year wasn't very good. And so I was so happy to see her in this, because this is the perfect role for her,
Yeah.
because she's just an inherently likable performer.
Yes.
So giving her a role where you're just inherently rooting for her.
Right.
It's easy
Right.
to see that she's likable. Like her movie last year, A Not So Royal Christmas, she's playing like a tabloid reporter. I'm like, she's
Oh.
absolutely the wrong person
Yes.
to be playing a tabloid reporter. Like when in Snow Bride, when Katrina Law is playing a tabloid reporter, that makes sense because
Right.
she has like just a little bit more edge, a little bit more
Yes.
cynicism, a little bit more.
You
That
totally
makes
buy
sense
it.
for her role.
Yeah.
It does not make sense for Brooke D'Orsay to be cast as a, you know, in this thing. And so this, it made so much sense for her to
Yeah.
feel like not only is she playing basically a Hallmark actress in
Right.
the movie, so that fits, but also just like this kind of wounded, uh, lost soul, and you just immediately are rooting for her because of who she is, and it was
Yes.
great casting.
Yes, absolutely. I always think of, when I think of her, I always think of the Hallmark movie, How to Fall in Love.
Oh yeah, I love that one too.
And that's like, I think that was my first introduction to her, and I love that movie. And so like
Yeah,
every time I see her, that's what I think of. And I just have all these like warm, fuzzy feelings for her because of that, because she's such a,
yeah,
like, you're right, she's so genuinely likable. And I think in this role, she really balances really well that likability with that, like, it's really clear that she feels a little lost, that she doesn't know what's next for her, that she is struggling to find hope in the midst of just a hard season, and that she's imperfect, even though everybody expects her to be the perfect character that she played for whatever, what did they say, 14 seasons or whatever that her TV show was on.
yeah,
And so it's like when you go that long and that's who people think you are, and then to recognize like, oh man, no, I'm actually just this real person who is having real struggles. I thought her interaction with there's a shop, a guy at the Christmas shop, and she's going to buy an ornament at
yeah,
the beginning, and he keeps calling her by Grace, which is the name of the character that she played. And she's like, well, no, it's Abby. It's Abby, but it just like, I felt
yeah.
like that set up so well the rest of the movie in terms of like just this struggle between like being like the perception of who people think you are versus who you really are.
Yeah, and also it was like added on to this layer because she had been with her co-star.
Yes.
She'd been married, gone through this divorce, and it sounds like that they kind of tried to sort of continue to play this part. So
Hmm.
she was also kind of like playing the part in her own personal life too, you know?
Yeah.
And even to the point of like she was planning on going to spend time with them
Yeah,
for
like
Christmas and
his aunt's
stuff. And
house or something for Christmas.
yeah, and
Yeah.
she finds out that he is getting married and that his fiance is pregnant, which I can't think of any other Hallmark movies where there's been an out of wedlock even for a minor character.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very
I honestly, I thought,
unusual.
oh, that's a little surprising, but
I
at the
mean, I
same
guess you
time,
had the Bethlehem movie, which was an adoption
an
for an
adoption.
unwed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess there was that, but last year. But yeah, I mean, you just immediately you feel
Yeah.
for her with that.
Yes.
That's tough.
Yes. And the fact that like she says that the reason that she and her ex-husband broke up is because he didn't want a family. And
Yeah.
now he's having a family with somebody else. And it's clear that that's something that she wants. And yeah, it's so heartbreaking. And yet she really balances that really well as an actress to like, you feel the
Yeah.
heartbreak, but also it doesn't drag the story, like, doesn't become like super sad. It's like she still is looking for hope, which is, I think,
Yeah.
just really encouraging.
Well, and I definitely got the feeling that she wasn't that happy with her career and that fulfilled.
Mhm.
She didn't really enjoy it that much. And
Yeah.
because I've heard some people complain, like, oh, she gives up her career for the man at the end, like, oh, Hallmark. But I feel like there's nothing wrong with changing paths.
Yeah.
If there's nothing wrong with deciding I'm going to become a wife and mother.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not sure she gave up her career at the end for him only. Like,
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
certainly she wants to be with him, absolutely. But she said very clearly when she was directing the children's pageant that she really enjoyed being on that side of
Yeah. And that she
things
felt fulfilled in a way she hadn't in a long
in a
time.
long time. And I'm like, there's so many opportunities in small towns for, community theater and things like that. So I didn't think, oh, she's giving up her career to be with him. She's giving up her career to pursue some other things. and
Yeah.
get to experience that.
And sometimes that happens, and that's not always someone being like a sellout. Like
Right,
a career is not everything.
right,
And like as an example, just off the top of my head, somebody like Rick Moranis,
right.
like he was like on Ghostbusters, top of his
Yeah,
game, Honey, I Shrunk the all that stuff. He gave it up to raise his kids.
right, right. Yeah. And I mean, he
Yeah.
went through severe tragedy,
Right. Yeah.
which, but it's like, yeah, like it's not second choice if that's the decision that
Yeah.
you make. Like
Yeah.
it's a very valid decision to make.
Yeah.
And it's what's best for you and your family. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, she only knew him for like 5 days. So that's the Hallmark part of it.
yes,
Fine.
sure.
But the other thing that I loved in this movie was I thought the way that they depicted prayer.
Uh-huh.
I can't think of when I've ever seen a prayer in any movie ever shown the way that they do in this movie.
Yeah.
Way it was just so conversational and hey, I could really use some help here, the kind of thing. And that's authentic to me. That's how I I I feel like I I feel like I want to have that. That's what I strive for. That's what I hope to have. That's what I feel. Some parts of my life, I felt like I've gotten it more than other times in my life. I felt like
Yeah.
it's been harder to get that connection. But I like to think it's a heavenly father. It's my
Right.
father. I'm not going to talk to him like he's like he's Zeus or something. I want that personal connection.
Exactly.
I thought that was
Exactly.
great.
I loved it as well. I really appreciated how they talked about prayer. Like not only how they showed it, which was great, but then also like at one point Nick said something about he's like, you don't have to be certain to pray. And I just thought, oh man, that's so
Yeah,
true. Like sometimes like
it's true.
we're not like we're looking for answers, we're looking for things, and we don't know actually what to pray. Like we're in a situation that feels like so out of control, and yet it's so okay to go to God during that time and be like, I don't know like I don't know what I need. I don't know what the situation is. Like it's okay to be that way, and that God still hears us and he cares enough to help, as they showed in this movie, to guide us, to like give us
Yeah.
light, to show us the right direction.
Yeah, it was really good. I liked that a lot.
I did too.
And the, there were a couple funny parts that made me laugh. And there's
Yes.
like the fact that where was this place that they went on this date? They go on the horse and carriage.
Yes.
There's like the most cozy Hallmarky place, like
Yes.
with this fire and hot cocoa. And like, what
Sitting on
is
hay
this?
bales.
How did you get set up? Where are they? Like, it just made
Right.
me laugh. I'm like, I wish that we all had this like easy access. I know they're in Vermont and it's magic
Right.
there, but it
Right.
made me laugh.
Yes.
Like, what is this?
I thought it was so funny that he is like, normally it's the girl who's depicted as being clumsy or whatever, and he was
Yeah.
so the clumsy one. And
Yeah, that's true. He was kind of awkward and
yes,
uncomfortable, and I
yeah,
liked that. Yeah, that was cute.
I did too. I really enjoyed that about him.
Hmm. The so the triple near kiss made me
Oh,
insane. I
yes.
was just like, what?
I kept thinking like I kept waffling because part of me was like, come on, guys, just kiss already. And then part of me was like, I was just so thankful that they weren't giving up. Like
Yeah, that's
because so
true.
often it's like, oh, we got interrupted and now oh, we can't kiss, And it's like, no, like it's clear that you want to kiss, but yeah, but every time something else would happen, it's just like, oh, come on, guys.
So yeah, so the one though that was the unbelievable part is so Mrs. Aldridge interrupts them.
Yes.
And she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted the lovebirds,"
Yeah.
and then her phone, and that was the part that was like, "There's no world where I always say, cell phones are the thief of love, but
Yes.
there's no way you would stop for a phone in this situation." It was
Right.
like, "Oh, it's my agent."
Yes.
It's
Yes.
like,
Well,
no.
and I don't know about you, but my phone is always on silent.
Yeah,
Like
no, me too.
And I feel like most people I know keep their phone on silent.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, why does she even have her phone on?
Yeah.
No, she just,
It's
they
true.
just
And then
can't.
the little girl, that makes sense. Okay, she's the
Yeah.
third one, but I was just like, oh, come on.
Oh,
Like, what would have really made that scene fun is if is if they'd been like, hold on, honey, I gotta do something before, and then it had a kiss. Like
yes,
that would have been like so swoony,
yes. Oh, that would have been great.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Although I
that would
feel
have
like
been
he's a
really
good
good.
enough dad that he like was so careful like not to like want to lead his daughter
Yeah.
on or make
Yeah.
her think that
Or if what if he had said, go brush your teeth and I'll be right there.
I'll be right there.
It's
Yes.
something I gotta take care of.
Yes.
Oh, that would have been the best.
It would have been excellent. I totally agree.
But the whole masquerade ball was a huge win. The only thing that I would have changed about it is I would have made it more Christmassy. It was kind of wintry,
Yes.
and I really was not a big fan of her dress.
Uh yeah, no, I wasn't
I did
either.
not love it. It
I
was like
liked
a
the
weird 80s wedding dress. I just did not.
I liked the idea that it was supposed to come from the costuming of My Fair Lady, but I
Oh, it
didn't.
was? I missed that part.
Yeah, like they had all those racks of costumes and he took her there to like,
Oh, I missed My Fair Lady-esque of it. That's
yeah,
why it's white. Okay.
yeah. So it did. It felt a little bit too much like a wedding dress and also it wasn't. Yeah.
I did not like it. But the scene was really fun, and him like surprising her and being like,
Yes.
I gotta get a tuxedo for this. That was
Yes.
really cute,
Yes.
very charming.
There was so much
And
good chemistry between them in that masquerade ball scene. I just was like, oh, yeah,
yeah, and they're like, I don't need the mask anymore. That was fun.
yes, yes,
But I could have, it just could have been more Christmassy. Like if her dress had been red or
yes,
green, if there'd been more, it was not that Christmassy of a ball,
right. And
but
I
it's
was a
fine.
little confused, like what the masquerade, like it was clearly some sort of like charity or something, like where you had to buy
Yeah,
tickets, but I'm not sure that was completely spelled out. And I was a little bit like, yeah, why are we doing a masquerade ball on Christmas Eve? Shouldn't this be, or,
a
a couple
Christmas
days?
ball.
Yeah, shouldn't it be a
Yeah, it should have
Christmas
been a
ball?
Christmas ball. And especially because it didn't seem like that everybody had masks on and stuff.
Right,
Like I
right,
think they were trying to do that because they wanted to hide the fact that she was a celebrity or that she was there,
right.
and and then reveal it and be this empowering moment for her. Be
Yes,
like, I don't need the mask anymore.
yes.
That's why they made it a masquerade ball, but they could have still made it more Christmassy,
Yeah, I agree.
more Christmassy.
I did.
But
I also
yeah,
didn't love the other woman. I can't remember her name now. Was it Mia who she was the one who was at the cafe at the beginning and was talking
yeah,
bad about her.
it was weird.
And then they have the confrontation at the masquerade ball. But there was a scene earlier where Mia comes to pick up her kid at the practice and is like flirting with
Oh yeah, and well, she
Nick.
says like, oh, all the single ladies will be disappointed
Yes.
if you
And I
don't go to
just
the
felt like
ball.
yeah, but if it felt like it was they were leading up to something and then it was like that was just not even an issue. Like and maybe it was that he was very much like I'm not interested and he sort of was like, putting distance between them, but again, it felt like I wasn't quite sure why that was part of the story.
Yeah, and I mean they also had this sister-in-law who
Mhm.
because he's really conflicted
Yeah,
about because he's a widower, of course, Hallmark hot widower,
yeah,
and he doesn't want to do anything that would dishonor or he's just very careful, about it and that's also why he gets like very nervous about the fact that is she abandoning the pageant? Is she using the pageant to get these
right.
paparazzis out there? All that stuff, and because this was his wife's legacy. But then like the sister-in-law is even more over the top about that.
Yeah, yeah,
She was
yeah.
intense.
She was, but
But
she came around pretty quick. So
yeah, and he did too. He
yeah,
realized that he shouldn't have done that,
yeah,
and he kind of just had a freak out moment.
yeah.
And I liked this when the sister-in-law says she's a good actress, but not that good. Celebrities don't even make their own nail appointments. Something's just not adding up.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
true.
No, yeah.
I thought
She
the drama
definitely
was supposed to be on stage.
right.
So we find out that her manager, Oliver, that he's the one that called the press, of course, and that she got the part. And she was thinking, do I have to? She was going to have to miss the pageant and fly back, and then she was going to spend extra time with them. And she's feeling conflicted about that, which is stupid. Like, it's just a day,
Yeah.
like that. You would be crazy to throw out an entire burgeoning relationship because you're gone for a day,
Right. Right.
and but nevertheless, it's Hallmark, so of course.
Yeah.
But she's feeling conflicted about it. How did you feel about the fact that so the daughter, she is singing, she has the part with the angels, she's singing the
Mhm.
song,
Yeah.
and she starts to get kind of nervous, and then you have Brooke's character you have Abby come up and sing the whole song with her on stage.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I thought that was very strange.
Yeah.
I
I
really,
agree. I agree.
I fully expected that, the little girl struggling with her lines, she's having a hard time like remembering the words. And so I thought like, oh, like Abby will stand off to the side, they'll make eye contact, and that will be like the thing that like, okay, I can do this. Like I
Yeah.
remember her encouragement. I can do this. I know the words. And but yeah, it was very strange for her to go up on stage and then she
Here's
was
what
trying to usher the little girl off stage and she wouldn't go.
here's what they should have done instead of
Okay.
doing what they did.
Yeah.
Because yeah, she's like kind of, it's just weird to have an adult up there. They
Yes.
should have done is have the little girl nervous,
Mhm.
starts to say she's singing Silent Night or some public domain song.
Yeah.
Singing Silent Night and or Angels Wave Heard on High, whatever. And she starts and she sort of falters. You have Brooke or Abby, you have
Mhm.
Abby start to sing with her in the crowd, and then the
Oh,
whole crowd
yes.
starts singing
Oh,
together, and it
yes.
becomes this moment.
Yes. Oh, that would have
And
been
they're all
lovely.
singing together. And it's like, oh, look how wonderful Christmas
Yes.
moment.
Yeah.
That's what they should have done. Because it
Yeah.
was weird to be like, why is this adult on the stage with the children singing? It
Yeah.
was weird.
I think they wanted the moment because I can't remember exactly what Abby said when she was up there, but something about like kind of wrapping up her story arc, kind of like, just this idea that like God, just like the Star of Bethlehem led the wise men, like God is, he's guiding me as well, kind of thing. But it
Yeah.
also was like, well, that's your story. That's not the Christmas story. So yeah, it was a little bit awkward, but I didn't hate it.
No, I mean it was fine. But that would have been better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I
yeah.
agree. I agree.
But and then we get this another near kiss outside. I shouldn't have doubted you. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh,
And then she says, what I feel for you is more than just a speck.
yes.
And she says, well, what are you going to Los Angeles? And then she says, no, I turned down the role. I'm tired of playing the perfect wife and mom. I want to start living it. And my best role is ahead of me.
Yeah.
So it's
And she
very
said something
sweet.
about not being perfect, but uh yeah,
Yeah.
that was sweet. It was,
And like she can always start acting again.
yeah,
It's not like that's it. That door's closed.
right. Right.
She can always, like plenty of people, take a hiatus to raise their kids and then come back
Yes.
and and start doing roles again.
Right. And there was definitely this sort of mentality that you have to be in LA to be in Hollywood to, be an actress. And
Yeah.
yet New York
Well,
is right
yeah.
there next to Vermont and is like a
Yeah.
huge entertainment hub. Or
Well, Toronto's just a hop away. If she's
I was
doing
gonna
these Christmas
say,
movies, she'd be
yeah,
right
like
there.
right there, like so much is filmed in Canada now. So yeah,
Like anything made in Ontario, she would be a hop away.
right,
Yeah,
right. Yeah, yeah.
definitely.
So
She'd be fine. She'll be fine. They'll be
yes,
a happy family. It'll be
yes.
great.
She can do whatever she wants now. And I love that she's real enough that we're like planning her future for her.
Yeah.
Here you go,
But
Abby. We've got you taken care of.
overall, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was very tender, very heartfelt and authentic. And I like both the leads. And so I would give this one like 4.5.
I had also a
Yeah.
4.5 for this one. I adored it. I thought it was fantastic. It was so heartwarming, and it's definitely one that I will watch again
Yeah.
next year.
And I just love the fact that not only is Hallmark doing these Dayspring movies,
Mhm.
I love the fact they're nailing it. I mean, they have
Yes.
all been good. And especially with some of the competition that tries to make a claim that they have a monopoly over this space and this audience, the fact that they are putting out just such quality in the faith-based space, I
Yes.
am very excited about.
Me too. Me too. I feel like the quality of this is far superior than the quality of some of the other sort
Yeah.
of faith-based type movies I've seen
Yeah.
recently. And I just was like, oh yeah, this one was so refreshing and so enjoyable. The acting was great, but the script was really good too.
Yeah.
And the production quality, all of it was just really enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you're listening, let us know what you think about these three movies. They're both pretty different, and I had to get a really good discussion. So, yeah, let us know what you think in the comments or on Twitter. And Liz, where can people follow you and tell them about your book? We had you on not too long ago talking about it, but tell the audience about your book and where to find you.
Yeah. So I am online at lizjohnsonbooks.com. That's my website. I've got a newsletter I send out, I don't know, 8 to 10 times a year. And then I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Liz Johnson Books. And my newest book is Meddling with Mistletoe, and it is a Christmas book, just as the title suggests. It is very Hallmarky. It is set on Prince Edward Island, and it's about a matchmaker who's really not very good at matchmaking,
Yeah.
and the couple that gets together despite that. So anyway, it's a lot of fun.
I'll put a link down to our other interviews and other episodes that we've done. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. Also, make sure that you're following the podcast, the Hallmarkies Pod, and Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That helps us so, so much and helps the algorithm, people to be able to find our podcast. The more reviews that we have, 5 stars, hopefully, on iTunes, please take the time to do that. And then on YouTube, if you're watching, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Most of our viewers on YouTube aren't subscribers. So if you're in that camp, please subscribe. It really helps the algorithm a lot. And then leave those likes and comments. And we have our patron group, which is really fun. This month, we had our patron activity with Julie Sherman Wolf, who's awesome and a great writer. And it was so much fun to get to talk to her and ask questions. And we had a great time and a great turnout. So you can be a part of those activities for the Patreon at any level of Patreon. So you should check it out. It's a lot of fun. And then we have our merch store where we have tons of fun Hallmark, and we have our merch store. We have tons of fun Hallmark inspired merch. So check that out. And thanks so much, Liz. And we'll talk to y'all later. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.